Good morning, viewers. I'd like to welcome you to this first English language version of our High Asia podcast, or South Asia Duta, as we Tibetans call it. Now, we're going to do this podcast. We're going to have this podcast occasionally in English, but most of the time we're going to stick to Tibetan. But because the subject is so kind of contemporary, right? Relatively speaking, with the Tibetan world, on cinema, we might have to use more English words. So let's do this podcast in English. Welcome everyone, listeners and viewers. And I would like to, of course, welcome, especially to this podcast, Tenzing Sonam. I think this is his first time on this podcast. And as I think all of you would know, he's Tibet's sort of greatest filmmaker at the moment. At the moment, there are a lot of competition coming, but at the moment he's holds that title.
That's very good.
And I'd like to start by giving you a little bit of his background and what this talk is going to be about today. So Tenzing Sonam is probably the earliest Tibetan filmmaker we have in exile. I don't think there's anyone else. There are rumors, but we can discount them, right? And his films have not only been made, but they are still popular and in circulation. For instance, his first film, this documentary called The Reincarnation of Khensu Rinpoche, which received a lot of accolade from Bernardo Bertolucci and others, is a brilliant first film. And ever since then, he's been making documentaries and also, feature films. The last one that he made, for me, is his most brilliant kind of work, The Sweet Requiem. It's about the story of a girl who escaped across the Nangpala Pass when the Chinese were really gutting down all escapees at that time. And it's a wonderful story, good actors, wonderful directing, and I won't go through everything, but then there's another feature film called Dreaming Lhasa that many of you may have seen. These have all come into the various festivals and so on and so forth, and they're great movies. But one of his documentaries that he first did for the BBC, called The Shadow Circus, is one particular favorite of mine. It's about the CIA in Tibet. And I won't go into details. I think all of you would love to see this because it actually has footages of raids into Tibet, plus interviews with some of our great heroes in the Chushigangduk and in Mustang. So this is a must-see for everyone. And you can get it on Amazon, I'm sure.
No, this is now freely available on our YouTube channel.
Great.
White Crane Films.
Oh, that's wonderful. White Crane.
So, yeah.
Then also, I won't go into more detail, but we can discuss this later. Especially, I'd like to discuss the film that you made, the documentary about your travel to Tibet, called A Stranger in My Native Land, which is wonderful, very touching, but we can get into that in detail, right? So, with this introduction, I would like to also emphasize here that all of this work that Tenzing did, right from the beginning up to now, he did together with his partner Ritu Sarin, equal sort of creative partners, as well as, let's say, in production and everything else. It's a wonderful team, and both of them, I'd like to give them my hearty kind of congratulations on all they've achieved up to now. And there's one more thing I want to talk about is your film festival, but we can move on to that a little later. So, what I want to discuss today, I won't go into all your works because I'm sure people can appreciate it themselves through what you've done. But maybe you, because of your knowledge of all the filmmaking world in the Tibetan exile community and also inside Tibet, I would like you to introduce all our viewers and listeners to that world. And people know, they've heard of Pema Tsedan and, few famous filmmakers, But they are not aware of actually that there are quite a number of filmmakers, very good ones also, and who have seen. And it would be, I think, a real treat for our viewers to have your kind of introduction and also your kind of appreciation of these filmmakers.
Sure. Thank you very much, Jaina, for having me on your podcast. It's wonderful to be back at the High Asia Library Research Center. I know it's been a dream of yours for many, many years, and to see it finally coming true like this and being a center of cultural activity here in Queens, I think it's really marvelous. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And you gave a brief introduction of my films. I just briefly want to mention that actually my first film was made as a student in Berkeley in 1985, and it was a documentary called The New Puritans, The Sikhs of Yuba City, which was made with Ritu. That was our first film together. And in fact, that film did very well. It broadcast on national PBS, which for a student film at the time was quite exceptional, right? Yeah. So that was actually our first film. But I guess what we realized at that time when we decided that filmmaking was something we really passionately wanted to do was that there were no films available in the world at the time that were made by Tibetans. All the films on Tibet were made by non-Tibetans. And I guess we felt the need for Tibetans to tell their own stories on this medium of film, which, of course, as you know, is completely, we don't have a history or, a cultural kind of a memory or any kind of precedent in our culture.
And there were no Tibetan filmmakers even in the PRC at that time.
Exactly, exactly. There were some propaganda films that came out of China.
But they are made even by Chinese.
Chinese, yeah. So really, there were a lot of well-meaning films on Tibet made by mostly Westerners, but they always had this outsiders kind of look,
POV,
POV. And as sympathetic and well-meaning as they were, they didn't quite express what Tibetans themselves were experiencing. So I think that was the impetus that drove us to kind of taking up filmmaking as a career, to try and really tell Tibetan stories. So the reincarnation of Khyentse Rinpoche that you mentioned was the first, Tibetan film in the Tibetan language that did quite well on the international circuit. It showed in many film festivals. It had a theatrical release both in America and in Europe. So it really was one of the first Tibetan films made by a Tibetan. I mean, when I say made by a Tibetan, I always include Ritu, who I consider to be an honorary Tibetan.
No, because in the Tibetan world, Nama comes into the man's home, traditionally speaking. So he is a Tibetan. Wow.
Okay. So, but over the years, what we've noticed is there has been a kind of a slow groundswell of Tibetan filmmaking. I guess when we made our first feature film, Dreaming Lhasa, just before that, of course, Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche had made The Cup in Exile.
Brilliant film.
Porpa, which was a beautiful film. Unfortunately, I think Rinpoche himself doesn't consider himself to be a Tibetan filmmaker anymore. He likes to, label himself as a Bhutanese filmmaker. But that's fine. That's his choice. But of course, The Cup was a Tibetan film
about Tibetans.
About Tibetans
in a Tibetan monastery.
In
Bir,
right? So and in the Tibetan language. So I would consider that to be the first Tibetan film in exile that really did well internationally.
Yeah.
Soon after that, Pema Tsetan made The Sun Behind the Pema Tsetan made The Silent Holy Stones, Lingjak Ki Mani Dobum. In Tibet, which again kind of traveled to international film festivals. And I remember seeing that film here in New York, and I was just completely blown away because I had some doubts, like how can a Tibetan from Tibet make a film, like a feature film, and under all those restrictions, what kind of film will he make? But it turned out to be this really beautiful, genuinely Tibetan film. And of course, Pema Tsetan then continued to make some brilliant films in his career. And I think his influence, not only was really strong inside Tibet, but even in exile, I think it really kind of inspired a new generation of Tibetans in exile. So those were the early kind of, I guess, the beginnings of Tibetan cinema, a genuinely Tibetan cinema, both in exile and inside Tibet. And since then, I mean, I have a list here. In the early days, and even today, there's Kesang Tseten.
Oh yeah, he was there from some time ago. Yeah.
And Kesang, unfortunately, he doesn't come up much in conversations about Tibetan cinema because his films have mostly been on Nepali subjects. But he's a Tibetan. He's been making films.
And it's Nepali/Tibetan.
Yeah.
That world.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, that's for me is Tibetan, right?
Yeah.
And I saw his film at a festival in Telluride. Not Telluride, the Mountain Film Festival in Colorado.
Telluride.
Telluride.
Festival, I mean, his first film was We Holmes Chaps.
That was brilliant also. Yeah, about this sort of English Christian missionary school in Kalimpong.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And it's actually about a lot of Tibetans who who were sent to that school
and who suffered,
and all about identity, like home, all the.
Very emotional,
Very emotional film. So I would, and Kesang, continues to make films. He's been very prolific. His films have shown in the biggest film festivals in the world. And most recently, he made a film in Jackson Heights called Diversity Plaza, which, again, I don't know if people have seen it, but it also touches on Tibetans living in this area. So Kesang was definitely one of the early Tibetans who took up filmmaking. Then there was Tsering Ritar, also from Nepal, who made... actually, his first film was called The Spirit Doesn't Come Anymore.
Yes,
a documentary film. About like a oracle whose son doesn't want to take on the family.
It's a documentary, right?
It's a documentary.
Yeah, very good one. Yeah.
Very, very lovely documentary. And he went on to make a Nepali feature film, Mukundo, which was written by Kesang Tseten actually, and then a Tibetan film called Karma, and subsequently another Nepali film called Uma, like kind of a commercial Nepali film. So Tsering has been very much there. As a Tibetan filmmaker living in Kathmandu, not making films particularly about Tibetan subjects, but being very supportive of Tibetan filmmakers. So, he's definitely somebody we should remember in the evolution of Tibetan cinema in exile.
Yeah.
And you want? Shall I go through a list of filmmakers that have since emerged? So, one of the bright kind of moments for me was when Tenzing Dasel made her first short film, and then followed it up with a film called Royal Cafe.
Tenzing Dasel,
she lives in France, and because filmmaking is a very male-oriented kind of a world, and for a long time it was all men who were making films. So Dasel kind of coming into the picture.
The first,
and Royal Cafe did really well, and showing a lot of promise. That was really inspiring for me. Okay, now we have a woman filmmaker in exile, and she's actually making a film called Dharamsala, which you may have heard about. It's like a big feature film, her first feature film. She got together all the luminaries from the Tibetan cultural world, from like Yishi, the singer, to Gyatsola, the actor, to, I mean, you name it, everyone's in the film. So we're all kind of, very eagerly waiting for her to release this film. But so she was there. Then there's the Trung filmmakers, Tibetan filmmakers collective that started in Dharamsala. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No, I haven't, no.
So Trung was started by 3 Tibetan filmmakers, Tenzing Tseten Chokle.
Oh yeah, I know him.
You know him. Sonam Tseten, you know him, Sonse. And Tenzing Kande, who's a cameraman. So the 3 of them started Trung about 5 or 6 years ago. And since then, they've been doing an amazing job in Dharamsala. They've been doing these mentoring workshops.
I heard about that, yeah.
And they're all filmmakers themselves. I mean, Tenzing Tseten made that film about Rigdel called Bringing Tibet Home.
Yeah. It was very good.
Which, again, was at Busan Film Festival and traveled widely. Sonam Tseten made a film called Pau with a German co-director. And is currently making his first debut film, feature film, on his own, which again I'm very excited about. And the three of us, along with a filmmaker based in Vietnam called Sring Tashi Gyalthang, we were a part of an anthology of short films.
No, I've seen that. Yeah,
The State of
that's very
Statelessness.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sring Tashi lives in Vietnam. He's another filmmaker who's been kind of working quietly in the background. He's made 2 short Vietnamese films, both very beautiful, and then this short film, this Tibetan short film. And I think he's planning to make a Tibetan feature film now. So he's someone to keep an eye out for. Then there's Tenzing Punsok, who lives, I think, now in New York. He's made 2 films. His most recent film, I think it was called Next Life, was selected for the new directors program at the Lincoln Center, which is a huge,
it's prestigious
thing. So Tenzing Punsok's more of a experimental arty filmmaker. So maybe his films haven't shown as widely as the other films, but all his films have a Tibetan subject. So he's there. Let me see who else is there. There's so as we were talking earlier, Ritu and I started the Dharamsala International Film Festival.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm bringing that up.
2012.
Yeah.
So it's an international film festival. It's not focused on Tibet in any way. It's basically celebrating independent cinema from around the world. But of course we show
in Dharamsala, yeah, of course.
But we show Tibetan films if they're up to the mark.
And it gives them a kind of
platform.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So for many years, the Tibetan films we were getting were not up to the mark. They weren't like of a very high standard. But more recently, suddenly there's been a spate of films that we've been, that have been submitted to us, that have all been incredibly kind of qualified, really good films, younger filmmakers. To the extent that last year we were not able to show several Tibetan filmmakers because we had too many Tibetan films in the program. So
that's great.
Yeah, so that's a really encouraging development. So in this kind of new generation of filmmakers, I have to mention Kunsang Kirong, from Canada. She's, I think, one of the most brilliant young Tibetan filmmakers we have today, and I really expect huge things from her. She came to our attention when she submitted 2 short films to DIF, both of which we showed. A kind of an animated short film called, what was it called? It was called Yarlung. And then she followed it up with a short feature film, short fiction film called Dulpa, which was about Tibetans working in a laundromat, in an industrial laundromat in Toronto. Very kind of observational, but kind of funny, but at the same time really looking at the questions of exile and identity, right? And then she followed it up last year with her first feature film, 100 Sunset, which premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, and then traveled widely around the world, won many awards, and it's just a stunning film, really, really stunning. Very
subject.
Subject is it's about a young girl who comes to Canada to be reunited with her parents. Parents, the man runs this kind of it's this loan kind of where everyone puts in some money together, and then at the end of the month, one person gets the
sort of community lottery
lottery
like sort of thing.
Lottery, but also like a informal banking kind of a system.
Koreans started that.
Nepalis do it a lot, apparently. Apparently it's a big thing.
Tibetans do it also.
Tibetans do it. I think in Jackson Heights also it's very popular.
That's the way that people can pay the mortgage for their first home,
or
start a business, buy a taxi, or something like that.
Exactly. So they get a big pot of money, right? So it's about this young girl who comes, and she's very withdrawn, and she's a bit of a kleptomaniac, and she starts stealing things, and she steals a video camera, and then she starts from her apartment room, she starts like filming things out of a window, and catches all kinds of things happening in other apartments.
That sounds great.
And she meets up with this other young Tibetan woman who's married to an older man, and the two of them form an unlikely kind of a friendship. They don't talk much to each other. But I won't tell you the plot. But
no. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Do something, it's really fast. But it's also a very elliptical story. Like it's not told in a conventional narrative way. So a lot of, I know when we showed it in Dharamsala, a lot of Tibetans didn't quite understand, and they were not sure whether they liked the film or not. But that's her strength, her style, and she's very adventurous. So she's, I think, leading the pack of our next generation of filmmakers. She's only, I think, 30 or 31. So she's really young. There's a guy in Queens called Tenzing who sent 2 films to DIF, and we showed one of them. It was called You Tibetan. And he's a really funny guy, makes super low budget films, but definitely has an original kind of point of view and a sense of how to make films. Really, exciting young talent. And then he made another film called Free Tea Bed, which is a really funny film. It's about 2 guys who try and do a business selling T-shirts, and they want to sell free Tibet T-shirts. But they send it to China to get printed, and it comes back saying free tea bed. So they have to now sell these free tea bed T-shirts. So like a really funny guy, and I think he's going to definitely make some great films in the future. And who else is there? There's Youngzone Brown. You might have heard of Youngzone Brown.
Yeah, I think I knew her father, Martin Brown.
Martin Brown's
the scholar.
Daughter. So Youngzone was mainly known as an actor, right? But then she moved to LA and she started directing films. And she's directed several TV shows in LA. But last year she made her first film with her father, Martin, Mola, this documentary about her grandmother, which was really, really deeply moving and beautiful. So I know Youngzone is also there. So yeah, there's a whole list of younger filmmakers coming out.
What we can do is, I could tack this on at the end of the program, so that people can go into this, right?
Exactly.
And we don't need to discuss everyone, except there's some people that you might want to discuss here.
I think I've mentioned most of the, I mean, there are a lot of other younger filmmakers who are out there now, in Europe especially.
Yeah, but we can sort of hook them at the end of it, right? I would like to just go into, your biography, right?
Sure.
From what of course, I know I'm from Darjeeling. You were born in Darjeeling.
Yeah.
What year?
1959.
59, right? And you are the son of Lamo Tsering,
yes,
who was, like the director, sort of, what would you call him? Chief of staff, chief of operations for the Tibetan kind of resistance, right? Great man. And you went to school in St. Joseph's in Darjeeling.
That's right.
So, of course.
Like you.
Yeah, like the rest of us. We started all our kind of film viewing by watching Hollywood films.
Exactly.
And we didn't see anything more exalted. Like
Exactly.
Ford, John Huston, and, like Billy Wilder, and all these brilliant filmmakers. But not art films, right?
No.
And of course, so these films are really good fun. Carl Form and all, these are all adventure films and westerns and so on and so forth.
Right.
Dino De Laurentiis, all
Right.
the massive, biblical and Roman and what have you. So how did you actually get in, because most people who watch these sort of films like them, but they don't get into they don't get inspired to make films, except maybe Satyajit Ray, because he was also Hollywood bred, right?
Right.
So how did you get interested in seeing cinema as a way of expressing your own, let's say, intellectual, cultural kind of viewpoint,
So like you were saying, growing up in Darjeeling, cinema was, very, very important to our lives, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there were 2 cinema halls, Capitol and Rink. And, every weekend a new film would come and it would be jam-packed and people would be fighting and to get into those films. So, of course, like everyone else in Darjeeling, I grew up on a diet of Bollywood and Hollywood films. In school, though, we had a very enlightened priest, because we used to have film screenings every weekend.
Father Lohar,
a Belgian priest, who showed us some very strange films, which in retrospect, when I think about, I just wonder why did he choose to show that film? For instance, he showed us Death in Venice, Visconti's film. And as you know, Death in Venice has a very strong homosexual undercurrent. And, this is a Catholic boarding school, boys' boarding school. And we are like 13, 14 years old.
But Lahore, by that time, he must have been really old.
He must have been in his early 70s. Yeah, he probably didn't care. He probably just loved cinema, right?
Yeah. So, because he was also, he told us, he was pastor in, Catholic pastor in Hollywood.
Right.
And he knew Elizabeth Taylor and things.
Right.
I mean, he told us these stories.
Right.
So he was there from when I was there, showing us.
Right.
And he would get really good films for the school. Stuff that you couldn't get in town.
Exactly.
So and then carry on, please.
Yeah, so I guess he, somehow maybe those films that he showed left some, subliminal imprint that there are other kinds of films that you can also be making or watching. But I think, I wanted to be a writer, like a lot of us did at the time. We thought that writing was, the way to express ourselves. And we were influenced by all these great writers that we were reading. So I had an opportunity to go to Berkeley, to the Graduate School of Journalism. And really the idea was to hone my writing skills and become a journalist. But when I got to Berkeley, they had a broadcast journalism department. And you could take lessons in making films and videos, and you could opt to do a documentary as your thesis project instead of a written, journalistic piece. At the same time, in Berkeley, there were loads of art house cinema halls.
Oh yeah,
so,
of course.
It was, and so you could suddenly watch a whole season of, Mizoguchi's films or Tarkovsky's films, or you could watch anything you wanted. It was like there were like about 5 cinema halls that were showing everything, Satyajit Ray, I discovered him in Berkeley, saw all his films there. So that I think also had an impact. But more than that, it was the idea that one could actually make a film, So I opted to make a documentary film as my thesis project, which was The New Puritans, The Sikhs of Yuba City, along with Ritu.
Yeah, which came out in PBS also.
It came out in PBS, yeah. So I think that's when it dawned on me and it dawned on Ritu that we could actually, filmmaking could be something that we could pursue as a career. And I think that's how it started,
Oh, that's brilliant because, it's not, I think there are many Tibetans who want to make films and who feel inspired to do so, but they haven't found, let's say, a way of doing it. Learning. And because it's a learning process, right? Absolutely. You have to open yourself to so much film kind of from history, other, and then there are very few. It's not like buying a book.
Exactly.
You can't get it.
Exactly.
You have to be able to. The only way I managed actually to get interested in film was when the DVDs came out. And then I could, see a lot of Kurosawa and the rest of it. And I started some small festivals in Dharamsala with Avni Machin.
Yeah.
But also one thing I did, and this is my service to the Tibetan community and to TIPA, because most of them had no sort of cinema experience. Not even Hollywood.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Because
you were in Dharamsala. And
in Dharamsala.
Didn't show there.
There's one old cinema hall which had so many bed bugs that you don't even want to go there. And it's mostly Bollywood,
films, right?
So I found a 16mm library in Bombay. That was actually renting films.
Right.
But of course, 16mm, the world was over, but they still had the library.
Right.
And I'm sure they're renting to schools and things. So they sent me their catalog. And, one of my secretaries went through it all and then showed it to me. And they had all the classics.
Right.
Hollywood classics. Right. Starting from King Kong, the old King Kong.
Right.
And Godzilla, everything. Everything that was really classic. Tarzan, Jungle Jim, what have you. It's all The Thief of Baghdad. The Phantom, all those very, very, and Buster Crab, what's his name, Flash Gordon,
right.
All the early science fiction and everything was there. So I showed it, used to rent the film, 200 rupees,
right,
You could keep it 24 hours and then show it to the
students
and,
deeper, right.
and also show it to the public and make some money off it. Right?
Right.
So, yeah, but the thing is, cinema education. Right?
Exactly. You need a culture of cinema.
Cinema.
Right? Yeah.
And, if you haven't seen the old King Kong,
Yeah.
you can never be able to make a film. Forget it, kind of. Right?
True, right.
These are like fundamental
Exactly.
to the idea of
Exactly.
cinema,
Yeah.
what you can do. So, yeah, this is something that in the Tibetan world, even people who come and talk to me sometimes saying they're making films. My idea is you have to expose yourself to it. See cinema till you're sort of blue in the face.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And these days with DVDs and everything, you can
So
really...
that's the difference from when we were younger. Like you were saying, we had no access to any of these films.
Yeah.
At the most, maybe you could go to a film festival in Delhi if you were really interested,
Yeah.
and see some foreign films, right? But otherwise,
That's limited also,
That's
right?
totally limited, right? But now it's totally changed, and I think that's also a reason why more and more people are taking up filmmaking. One, the means of making films have become completely accessible. When I started
it's digital,
out,
right?
yeah, equipment was heavy, cumbersome, expensive. You couldn't just pick up a iPhone and start shooting and making a video. You needed equipment, right? So, there were so many limitations to making films at the time. Now it's changed. It's become much more democratic in the sense that anyone can pretty much make a film. But as you're saying, filmmaking is like learning a language, and I always say that to younger people. It's like you're starting. You have to start from the ABC of and the grammar of a new language. You can't just pick up a camera, start shooting, like editing it, and expect a film to come out of it, right? And part of that language is what you're saying. You have to go back and watch the classics. You have to watch, just steep yourself in cinema, right? And that's how you learn.
One of the things that people feel is that they have a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Or they've got something that they think will help the community, and which is, I'm sure they're right, right?
Yeah.
That they're teaching something, or but what they come out with, it's you have the ideas don't really matter in the film,
Right.
to some extent, right?
Right.
It's the way you present it.
Exactly.
And you could present a very simple idea, but if it's
absolutely.
done in a brilliant way, it's like, it's profound, right? So I think it's for Tibetans. And the thing is that, we're not trying to teach anyone anything here, right?
No.
It's not our job. But cinema, the easy thing about cinema, unlike everything else, like the literary world, to really learn how to write, the books that you have to read, if you want to write in a profound way, are difficult, right? To read Finnegan's Wake, or to read Ulysses by Joyce, or even even to read War and Peace, it's like impossible, right? But the cinema is so different. It's a pleasure, right?
Right.
Just to watch,
accessible, right? And
far more accessible,
and the great sort of films are also
entertaining, usually,
and they're universal, so they touch you.
Absolutely,
even if it's from a different culture or a different language.
That's why I think in Darjeeling, like even when they had Hollywood films, and even like film like Dr. Zhivago and what came, I sort of remember seeing Nepali sort of girls,
right,
who didn't even speak English properly,
right.
were totally
Influence.
moved by it.
Right.
Like in the end for Dr.
Yeah,
Zhivago, right? And when he was dying and he was struggling with a lot, he thought it was Lara there in the buses, whatever it was.
Right.
They were going, Bichara, Dr. Zhivago, Bichara, and you can understand that cinema has that ability,
Absolutely.
unlike literature,
Absolutely.
to be able to, move people who are, transcend the sophistication, and everything
or
else.
Cultural boundaries.
Absolutely, yeah. So, working with a partner like Ritula, right? Ritu Sareen is, we've worked with her all these years, and she's from the Punjab.
Right.
We are all related.
Although her family is from Dharamsala.
Really,
based in Dharamsala, surprisingly.
Her father was a general.
Father was a general in the army.
So, how have you found the thing of working with someone I mean, is it kind of a usual thing in cinema that you always have
No, it's in fact
a team, you know,
it's cinema is a team.
work, yeah,
Yeah, definitely,
but
it's
not a
teamwork,
permanent thing, yeah.
but not a permanent thing, and not definitely. It's very rare to have like a couple, whether they husband wife or partners making films together on an equal footing. I think the most famous example would be the Coen brothers, who
Yeah, of course.
have made almost all their films very, very closely together, right? But it's very difficult, and people always kind of comment and ask us, how do you manage? Because filmmaking is also quite you have the director who is supposed to be like, it's his vision or her vision that is supreme, and everyone else is there to kind of realize that, help realize that vision. So how do two people have a vision together that they're both trying to promote without having some clashes or some differences? But I think what Ritu and I have managed to do over the years, and we've been working together for almost 40 years now, is we've learned to compromise. So I mean, if one of us feels very, very strongly about something and the other kind of doesn't agree, but we reach a point where it's like, okay, all right, it's no point arguing anymore, like, let's do it your way kind of thing. So that compromise at a certain level, I think that's what's allowed us to keep making films together. And at this point, I think we just understand each other. So,
Yeah, it's been many years now.
It's been many, many years. So,
decades. Huh?
And we have our own kind of areas of expertise as well. Like I do most of the writing. Ritu does most of the producing. So she's very good at meeting people. That's the hard work, right? Raising funds. So unfortunately, she's saddled with that aspect. And then during the directing and editing, we sit together and do it together.
And it's worked out really well.
It's worked out really well. Yeah.
So would you like to share with us, if it's possible, what your next project will be?
Yeah, so
cinematically,
we've, as you know, being Tibetan and growing up, in a certain kind of era, we've always felt this huge responsibility, right, on our shoulders that we should somehow. Whatever we do should be in the service of our cause, right? So this has been a huge weight of responsibility for me personally, because every film that I've kind of written or thought about, pretty much almost every single film that Ritu and I have made have a Tibetan connection or a Tibetan sort of subject. And that's really because we feel this huge weight of responsibility to to work with Tibetan subjects, to promote the cause, the Tibetan culture, all of that. So for a long time, we've kind of thought it would be nice to just take a break from that, heavy load that's on our back and just do something that's totally not political, not involved with Tibet in a direct way. So I've been working on a script for quite a few years. And I think now we're launching that project, and we're actually actively fundraising for it right now, and we hope to shoot it next summer. And very briefly, it's called Meet Me on the Mountain. It's set in like a Bardo-like space, like in a post-human, universe. It's not meant to be the Bardo, but it's like a Bardo space, where a man who's killed on his wedding day finds himself, still in his blood-stained kind of suit and with a gun in his hand. And in this strange kind of other world, he's haunted by appearances of his wife and his killer. And he's torn between revenge and desire. And in this world, he meets this yogi, like a tantric, dreadlock tantric master who rides a motorcycle. And this yogi takes him back to his tent, like a black nomadic tent, where an old master is in meditation. And the yogi is basically like serving this master and taking care of him. So eventually, through the yogi's example of devotion and dedication, the groom, the dead groom,
moves on,
recognizes that what's stopping him from, release is his own kind of inability to see his true nature. And at the end, he has a showdown with the killer on this mountain, and he realizes that the killer is himself, and then he shoots himself.
Okay.
You know. So it's called Meet Me on the Mountain. It's like a Buddhist fable, let's put it that way. But yeah, Ritu and I are very excited about it. I think it'll be a very different film from anything we've done before.
Meet Me on the Mountain. So it's like the setting is sort of any mountain or just the Himalayan?
No, so it's with a very specific mountain in mind, because we were traveling in Zanskar 2 years ago, and we passed this mountain called Gombo Rangjung in Zanskar. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it. It's stunning. It's just this one singular peak
I saw
that rises out of the valley. So
I saw it last time on your phone, I think.
Yeah. So that's the mountain, and the landscape will be in Zanskar.
Oh, it sounds brilliant. Yeah. So you would stop there. I don't want anyone stealing your ideas. No, it sounds great. Yeah, I think it's. We could keep on talking about cinema, but I think we are running out of time, and so before we sort of. We pause here. Is there anything else that you would like to put in about cinema, and to inform maybe the Tibetan world or whatever?
No, I mean, I think generally, as I was telling you earlier, I'm very encouraged by the kind of development of Tibetan cinema, especially in exile. There are lots of younger talent, now making films, and I'm really excited about that. What I would say really to our Tibetan, friends, our audience, is you have to support cinema. Well, not just cinema, you have to support the arts. Tibetan artists find it really difficult to survive. And, making a film requires a lot of effort, it requires a lot of support, funds, of course. So, we can contribute, we can do crowdfunding, we can put in money into these projects, and we should support these projects. I think that's really important, because as you know, until now, the Tibetan community, the society hasn't taken the arts very seriously, right? We don't look at it as something valuable.
No. It's unfortunate because, and especially what I always felt was that cinema is, in some ways, dynamic. It's direct. It's a way that even Injis who are not really, who don't want to hear about Tibet, might want to sort of see
this. You can touch them through a different...
a short film or something or the other. Yeah. But this is where I also feel like sometimes for young Tibetans, like they don't have to take my sort of tip on this, but of course you want to make something that you truly feel.
Yeah.
But in a lot of other craft, you have to do things which are not just emanating from your own kind of idea of being inspired or some committed to or whatever. You are doing, in some ways, the work that is expected of you from some organization or the other. So cinema would be, in some ways, and it would be a good exercise for younger Tibetans to make, like we see on YouTube, so many stupid propaganda films coming out, all the time. We could do something, and on Tibet, then you always get something that really is awful. It's all kind of emotional, sentimental, pseudo-spiritual. Some person is saying the Dalai Lama inspired him, but it's all made up, right? And these days using AI. So why can't people do short snippets of Tibetan life or Tibetan history in an interesting way? Using skills, but at the same time, which informs not just the world, but even the Tibetan community
themselves.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And its subjects are endless,
Absolutely,
Right? So I would suggest to younger Tibetans, because, we need to find new ways of letting people know what happened.
Right.
And especially in New York, we have the United Nations. That's where Tibetans, we first presented our petition. When Tibet was invaded, we appealed to the United Nations, and they did nothing. Now that is a fantastic short film, and nobody thinks politically. But political films are powerful.
Right.
All the President's Men is just one example, right? I watch it again and again.
Right.
But this could be something on Tibet which could be really powerful,
Right. No, absolutely.
which doesn't have to involve trekking all the way to Tibet, right?
Yeah.
So I would appeal to you, of course, also, as the foremost filmmaker on Tibet, and to younger Tibetan filmmakers to, I shouldn't say this because also like I am a writer. I write stuff that is completely from my head.
Right.
It's not political or anything. Right? Mandala of Sherlock Holmes being one.
It's your passion, like what you want to
but
tell.
You have to break that by doing, let's say, work that is not exactly what you want to do, but which is important.
Right.
One can't keep writing articles where one expresses oneself in intimate sort of feelings, but you have to do stuff that people will read, and you have to keep it up, right?
Yeah.
You can't just sit there, sucking on a pencil and waiting for inspiration.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyways, thank you so much. I wish you all the best, and this is the first time Tenzing has been here on his podcast, and we could discuss his next film maybe on a future kind of episode of High Asia.
Absolutely.
And thank you very much for coming. And please thank Ritula. She had some errands to run, and otherwise she would be here to discuss this with us. And since you are not staying here very long, this is all we could get out of you at the moment. But there will be many more opportunities. So I want everyone to, and at the end of this, we will put up these names of Tibetan filmmakers so people might be interested in,
Yeah, that would be good.
And, you might even discover that this is your son or your nephew or niece, right?
Right.
The younger people. So, yeah, it'd be exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Janla. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Na zon dorge kanlon zambu lenke so shente jime cha chile zene ko tre den du jupi nyama te ni trjene lenkare ma wa pawa tamaje ke chamro molo jane gavi ke lohare shige chivi ke trodon chele gachi para du chamcho jene obra ke lo jene jupra dawo o mane pe me hores